Dr. Geo Park frowned at his computer screen. The lines on the graph shouldn't look like this. Earthquakes made jagged, random patterns. These lines were too even, almost like a heartbeat. He took off his glasses and rubbed his tired eyes. It was past midnight, and he was the only one left in the seismology lab at Seoul National University. Outside his window, the city lights glowed bright against the dark sky. "This can't be right," he said to himself. He had been tracking these strange tremors for 3 weeks now. They were too weak for most people to feel, but his sensitive equipment caught them clearly. Geo picked up his phone and called the one person who wouldn't think he was crazy. "Hana, it's me. I need you to look at something." 2 hours later, Hana Kim walked into his lab, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Her short black hair was messy, and she still wore her pajamas under her coat. Hana had been Geo's best student 5 years ago. Now she worked for the Korean Geological Survey. "This better be good," she said, handing him a cup. "Normal people sleep at night." Geo pointed at his screen. "Look at this pattern. Tell me what you see." Hana leaned closer. Her eyes widened. "That's not natural," she said. "It's too regular." "Exactly. And look at this." Geo clicked to a different screen showing a map of Seoul with red dots marking where the tremors were strongest. They form a perfect circle under the city. Hana sat down heavily. "How long has this been happening?" 3 weeks, and it's getting stronger." Hana opened her laptop and logged into the Geological Survey database. After a few minutes of typing, she turned the screen to show Geo. "It's not just here," she said quietly. "Look. Tokyo, New York, London, Mexico City, all showing the same pattern." Geo felt cold fear crawl up his spine. Something is happening under all the major cities in the world. Could it be some kind of new drilling technology? Military tests? Geo shook his head. These patterns go too deep. Whatever is causing this is at least 5 kilometers below the surface. His phone rang, making them both jump. It was his friend Do-yoon from the city planning office. "Geo, we have a problem at the new subway tunnel. A whole construction team is missing." The construction site was chaos. Police lights flashed, and worried officials stood in small groups, talking in low voices. Do-yoon led Geo and Hana past the yellow tape. They were extending the green line. Do-yoon explained. 12 workers went in yesterday morning. None came out. "A cave-in?" Hana asked. "No. We sent in a rescue team with cameras. The tunnel is intact. They're just gone." They put on hard hats and followed Do-yoon into the tunnel. The air was cool and damp, smelling of wet concrete and earth. Their footsteps echoed as they walked deeper underground. "Here," Do-yoon said, stopping at a section where the digging machines stood silent. "This is where they were working." Geo pointed his flashlight at the walls. Strange marks covered the concrete, forming patterns he had never seen before. "What are these?" he asked. Hana ran her fingers over the marks. "They look like writing, but not any language I know." Geo's flashlight beam caught something on the ground. He bent down to look closer. It was a small pool of thick, yellowish liquid that seemed to glow faintly. "Don't touch it," he warned. His phone beeped. It was an alert from his lab computer. The tremors were getting stronger, right under where they stood. The ground suddenly shook beneath their feet, not violently, but with a strange, rhythmic motion. The same pattern as his graphs. "We need to leave. Now." Geo grabbed Hana's arm. As they hurried back toward the entrance, Hana's phone rang. "More teams are reporting the same marks in tunnels all over the world," she said, her voice shaking. "And more people are missing." Geo looked back at the darkness of the tunnel. For a moment, he thought he heard something, a low, hungry sound, like the rumble of an empty stomach. "Whatever is down there," he whispered. "I think it's waking up." Captain Taho Shin stood at the entrance of the tunnel, his face serious under the bright lights. 20 soldiers in full gear waited behind him. The government had sent him to find out what happened to the missing workers. No one goes alone, he told his team. Stay in groups of 4 at all times. Dr. Jisoo Lee stood quietly next to him. She was a small woman with round glasses and short hair pulled back in a tight bun. Tahoe didn't understand why they needed a language expert for this mission, but his orders were clear. Dr. Lee will examine the strange markings, he explained to his team. Keep her safe. They moved into the tunnel. Their footsteps made hollow sounds on the concrete floor. The air felt heavy and cold. When they reached the area with the markings, Jisoo stepped forward. She moved her flashlight slowly over the strange symbols on the walls. Have you seen anything like this before? Tahoe asked. No, she answered, her voice soft. These are not from any human language I know. Jisoo touched one of the symbols. The moment her fingers met the wall, she pulled back with a small cry of pain. What's wrong? Tahoe moved quickly to her side. A headache, she said. Very sudden. And she hesitated. I heard something. Like what? Voices. Whispering. She pressed her hands to her temples. I can't understand the words, but they sound hungry. Tahoe didn't like this. He ordered his team to set up lights and cameras around the tunnel. 2 soldiers placed small microphones deep in the cracks of the walls. If there's anything down there making sounds, we'll hear it, one soldier said. Jisoo took photos of every marking. Sometimes she stopped to write notes, her hand shaking slightly. Her face was pale. These look like warnings, she told Tahoe after an hour of work. See how they repeat. This symbol here appears before every group of markings. In most ancient languages, that suggests a warning or danger sign. A soldier called from the computer station they had set up. Captain, you need to hear this. They gathered around the small screen. The soldier played a recording from one of the microphones. At first, there was only the normal sound of dripping water and distant city noise from above. Then they heard it. A low, rhythmic sound, like many voices speaking together in perfect time. Can you make it louder? Jisoo asked. When the sound filled their headphones, she gasped. I know this pattern. These sounds match stories in ancient myths, stories about those who sleep beneath. She looked at Tahoe with wide eyes. Every culture has these myths, beings that live deep in the earth, waiting to rise again. Tahoe was about to answer when his radio crackled. Captain, this is base. We have reports of 3 more missing persons in different parts of the city. All disappeared near underground areas, a basement, a parking garage, and a sewer maintenance site. Any witnesses? Tahoe asked. No, but all 3 sites have the same strange markings on the walls. The ground trembled beneath their feet. Small pieces of concrete fell from the ceiling. Everyone out now, Tahoe ordered. His team moved quickly toward the exit. As they walked, Jisoo stopped suddenly, her eyes fixed on the darkness ahead. Do you see that? She whispered. In the distance, where their lights barely reached, something moved across the tunnel floor. It was low to the ground and moved too smoothly to be human. When Tahoe pointed his light directly at it, it was gone. What was it? He asked. I don't know, Jisoo said, but I felt it in my head when it was here, like it was tasting us somehow, with its mind. Outside, the night sky was full of stars, but no one looked up. All eyes were on the tunnel entrance, as if expecting something to follow them out. Whatever is down there, Jisoo said quietly, it knows we're here now. And I think it's getting ready to come up. Tahoe felt his phone vibrate. It was a message from emergency services. Across Seoul, the ground was starting to shake. The ground shook harder now. Not just small tremors, but big shakes that made buildings sway. All across Seoul, people ran into the streets, afraid to stay inside. Do-yoon Kang stood in the emergency control center, looking at screens showing the city. As head of emergency response, today was the worst day of his career. Red dots covered the map, showing where the ground had opened up. Another sinkhole in Gangnam district. A worker called out, 3 buildings affected. Do-yoon grabbed his radio. Send rescue teams to Gangnam now. Get everyone out of those buildings. The door burst open. Ji-ho and Hana rushed in, looking like they hadn't slept in days. You need to see this, Ji-ho said, putting a tablet on the table. The screen showed a video from a traffic camera. In it, the street split open, and something huge pulled itself out of the ground. What is that? Do-yoon asked, his voice barely a whisper. The creature in the video was bigger than a car. It had a hard, shell-like body with many legs. Its front had sharp parts that looked like tools or weapons. The shell gleamed like metal under the streetlights. They're coming up all over the city, Hana said. And not just here. Reports are coming in from Tokyo, New York, London, all the major cities we tracked with the tremors. The room fell silent. On another screen, they watched soldiers firing at one of the creatures. The bullets hit the hard shell and bounced off. Our weapons don't work, Do-yoon said. They're like giant insects, but their shells are harder than steel, Ji-ho explained. We found records in old books and stories. These things have come before. Hana opened a folder full of old papers. Look at these. Cave paintings from 15,000 years ago. Ancient Chinese writings. Greek myths. They all show the same creatures. They call them the Old Ones, beings that sleep under the earth for thousands of years, then wake up when it's time to feed. Feed on what? Do-yoon asked, though he feared he knew the answer. Us, Ji-ho said simply, but not our bodies. They feed on something in our brains, a chemical that comes from fear. The building shook again. Dust fell from the ceiling. That's why they built their sleeping places under where our cities would grow, Hana continued. Somehow they knew where humans would gather in large numbers. When enough people live above them, they wake up. So our cities are just feeding grounds. Do-yoon couldn't believe what he was hearing. Yes, and with billions of people on Earth now, mostly in cities, we've prepared the biggest feast they've ever had. The radio crackled. It was Captain Tahoe reporting from the field. The creatures are breaking through in at least 30 places across the city. We need somewhere to take the survivors. Do-yoon looked at the map. The old bunkers in the mountains. Tell everyone to head north. We'll set up a base there. As he spoke, the lights flickered. On the screens, they could see dark shapes moving through the streets. People ran, screaming. The Old Ones followed, not fast but steady, never stopping. They're hurting people, Ji-ho said, watching the screens, making them more afraid before they feed. Hana's phone rang. It was Dr. Jisoo Lee. I've translated more of the markings, Jisoo said, her voice shaking. These creatures have been here 5 times before in Earth's history. Each time, they caused a mass extinction. 5 times? Hana asked. When? The last time was about 66 million years ago. Do-yoon looked at Ji-ho. That's when. When the dinosaurs disappeared, Ji-ho finished. Yes, and now they're back for us. The building shook again, harder this time. Cracks spread across the floor. They're under this building, Hana whispered. Everyone out now. Do-yoon shouted, grabbing the emergency equipment. Get to the mountains. As they ran for the exit, the floor behind them split open. A long, jointed leg, sharp as a blade and hard as metal, reached up through the crack. The Old Ones were hungry, and the feast had begun. 3 days after the first attack, the mountains north of Seoul were full of people. Tents covered every flat space. Injured people lay in rows under makeshift shelters. Soldiers moved among the crowds, handing out food and water. In a small building that had once been a weather station, Captain Tahoe gathered with the others around a map. The Old Ones now control most of the city, he said, pointing to the red areas on the map. We have made a defense line here, at the edge of Gangnam district. Why haven't they come after us in the mountains? Do-yoon asked. They move slower at higher ground, Ji-ho explained. Something about the pressure or the rock type slows them down. It gives us time to think. The door opened. A tall man with glasses entered, carrying a large metal device. "This is Suho Choi," Tahoe said. He was working on military weapons before the attack. Suho placed the device on the table. It looked like a speaker with many dials and buttons. "I heard about your seismic research," he said to Jiho. "You found patterns in the tremors." "Yes." Jiho nodded. "They use the vibrations to communicate." "Exactly," Suho said. "So I built this. It makes sounds they can hear, but we cannot. It confuses them, breaks their connection to each other." Hana looked hopeful for the first time in days. "Will it kill them?" "No," Suho admitted, "but it will make them weak for a short time. Maybe enough time for your weapons to work." Tahoe studied the device. "How many of these can you make?" "With the right parts, maybe 20. "That's not enough to save the city," Doyun said. "No," Tahoe agreed, "but it's enough to test if it works." The next day, Tahoe led 50 soldiers to the defense line. Each carried normal guns, but 5 special soldiers carried Suho's sound devices. Suho came too, to make sure the devices worked right. The defense line was a row of broken buildings and burned cars. Beyond it, they could see the old ones moving slowly through the empty streets. The creatures looked even more terrifying in daylight, their hard shells shining in the sun, their many legs moving in perfect order. "Remember the plan," Tahoe told his team. "When the devices turn on, we have maybe 5 minutes to attack before they adjust to the sound." Suho checked each device one last time, then nodded to Tahoe. "Ready." "Turn them on," Tahoe ordered. The soldiers pressed the buttons. Nothing seemed to happen, but down in the street, the old ones suddenly stopped moving. Their legs shook. Some fell to the ground. "Now," Tahoe shouted. The soldiers fired their guns at the fallen creatures. This time, the bullets didn't bounce off. They cracked the hard shells. Dark liquid poured out as the creatures made high, shrieking sounds. For 5 minutes, they fought. They killed 7 of the old ones before the creatures started to move normally again. "Fall back," Tahoe ordered, and the soldiers returned to the defense line. As they watched, the remaining old ones gathered around their dead. They seemed to be studying the bodies, learning. "They're adapting," Suho said quietly. "The same frequency won't work twice." Back at the mountain base, Dr. Jisu and a new person were waiting for them. The new woman wore a white lab coat and had short hair with a streak of gray. "This is Dr. Minji-yoon," Jisu said. "She studies how the brain works. She has a theory about the old ones." Minji looked tired but determined. "I've been studying brain chemicals for 20 years. The old ones feed on a specific chemical our brains make when we're afraid. That's why they make us run and hide before attacking. They're farming us." "So what can we do?" Tahoe asked. Minji's eyes were serious. "We need to stop being afraid. Our fear makes them stronger." As she spoke, the radio crackled with reports of new attacks. The old ones were adapting faster now, and they were heading toward the mountains. Dr. Jisu Lee bent over the old book, her eyes tired from reading for hours. Next to her sat Dr. Chuno Ba, an old man with white hair who knew more about history than anyone else in Korea. "Look at this," Jisu said, pointing to a drawing in the book. It showed strange creatures with hard shells, just like the old ones. Above them, people held up round objects that sent out wavy lines. "This is from a temple in Cambodia," Junho explained. "It's at least 3,000 years old. The story says the people used sound to fight the demons from below." They were in a small room filled with books and old papers. While Tahoe and his soldiers fought the old ones, Jisu and Junho searched for answers in ancient stories. "We found the same story in 10 different places," Jisu said. "China, Egypt, Greece, Mexico. All tell about creatures from underground that feed on fear, and all say humans fought them before." Junho picked up a map. "And look where these stories come from. He pointed to spots on the map, all places where there were big cities thousands of years ago. Hana, who had been listening from the doorway, stepped into the room. So this has happened before. The Old Ones have attacked humans before. Many times, Junho said. But humans always found a way to push them back underground. How? Hana asked. How did they win without modern weapons? Jisoo turned a page in the book. That's what we need to find out. The next day, Jisoo, Shunho, and Hana stood at the entrance of an old temple high in the mountains. It was made of stone and looked like it might fall down any moment. Are you sure about this? Hana asked. We're supposed to be safe up here. The stories all point to this place, Junho said. If there are answers, they're inside. They walked into the dark temple. Their flashlights showed stone walls covered with carvings. Many showed the same creatures they now call the Old Ones. In the center of the temple was a stone table. When Jisoo shined her light on it, they saw a small hole in the middle. What's that? Hana asked. Junho looked closely at the carvings around the table. It says, place the key of sound here to open the path to victory. Jisoo reached into her pocket and pulled out a small stone she had found in the tunnel days ago. It was covered with the same markings they had seen on the tunnel walls. Could this be it? She asked. She placed the stone in the hole. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the stone table began to move, sliding to the side. Under it was a set of stairs going down into darkness. Should we go down? Hana asked, her voice shaking a little. Jisoo nodded. We have to. The answers are down there. The stairs led to a small room deep under the temple. When they entered, lights suddenly came on. Not fire or candles, but real electric lights. That's impossible, Junho whispered. This temple is thousands of years old. The room was filled with strange devices that looked both ancient and advanced. Metal boxes with glowing parts. Tools made of materials none of them recognized. These people were more advanced than we thought, Jisoo said, touching one of the devices. In the center of the room was a glass case. Inside was a small bottle filled with dark liquid. And next to it, papers covered with writing and diagrams. Junho read the papers carefully. This is amazing. These are instructions for making something that poisoned the Old Ones. Not their bodies, but the connection between them. A poison? Hana asked. That works against them. Not exactly poison, Junho said. More like, it made human fear taste bad to them. It changed the chemicals in human brains so the Old Ones couldn't feed on them. Jisoo looked at the bottle. Can we make more of this? Junho frowned. Some of these ingredients don't exist anymore, or they have different names now. Just then, Hana's radio crackled. It was Taho. The Old Ones have broken through our defense line, he said, his voice urgent. They're coming up the mountain. Fast. As night fell, the mountain camp became a place of busy work and hope. News had spread about what Jisoo, Shunho, and Hana found in the temple. For the first time since the attacks began, people had something to believe in. Captain Taho set up a radio station in the main building. He spoke with military leaders from around the world, sharing what they had learned about fighting the Old Ones. The sound devices work, but only for a short time, he told a commander in Japan. You need to hit them hard and fast while they're confused. In another room, Suo worked with a team of people who knew about machines and electronics. They took apart radios, phones, and other devices to build more sound weapons. Make 20 more by morning, Suo told his team. And find ways to make them smaller. Soldiers need to carry them easily. Dr. Minji set up a lab in what used to be a kitchen. She studied the papers from the temple, trying to understand the ancient formula. These old people knew a lot about brain chemicals, she said to Hana, who helped her. They found a way to change how fear works in the brain. Can you make what they made? Hana asked. Minji frowned. Not exactly the same. Some of these things they used don't exist anymore, but maybe something close. Outside, Jiho and Doyoon looked at maps spread on a large table. They marked where the old ones had been seen coming out of the ground. "There's a pattern," Geo said. "Look, they built tunnels under our cities in the shape of a web." He pointed to the map. "And here, deep under each city, must be their main nest. If we could find these nests," Doyum said, "maybe we could attack them there." As they worked, a soldier ran up to them. "You need to come see this," he said, pointing to a screen inside. On the screen was a live video call from America. A scientist there showed them something amazing. Soldiers walking right past the old ones who didn't attack them. "How is this possible?" Tahoe asked. "Dr. Minji's idea gave us a clue," the American scientist said. "We made a spray that masks human fear smells. When our soldiers use it, the old ones can't sense them." Minji rushed to the screen. "Send us the formula." Now, within hours, people all over the world shared what worked against the old ones. London had found weak spots in the creature's shells. Australia discovered the old ones couldn't see well in bright light. Each small victory gave humans more hope. Suho's team sent the plans for the sound devices to every country with a radio. People built them using whatever they could find: old speakers, car parts, even toys. "Humans are good at working together when we need to," Doyum said, watching everyone work. That night, Tahoe called everyone to the main room. Screens showed military leaders from 20 countries. "Tomorrow, we fight back," Tahoe said. "Not just here, but everywhere. Humans all over the world will attack at the same time." "But we haven't made enough of the fear-blocking spray yet," Hannah said. "We can't wait," Tahoe replied. "The old ones are learning too fast. Each day they get harder to fight." Juno stood up slowly, his old face serious. "There's one more thing from the temple you should know." He held up an ancient stone tablet. "This says the old ones have queens, bigger, smarter creatures that control all the others. They stay in the deepest chambers underground. If we kill a queen," Geo said, understanding quickly, "the others in that area might lose their connection." "Then that's what we'll do," Tahoe said. He pointed to the map of Seoul. "Tomorrow, we go underground. We find the queen, and we kill it." No one spoke for a moment. Going underground meant entering the old one's home. It might be a one-way trip. "I'll go," Hannah said finally. One by one, others raised their hands too. The war for Earth had begun, and humans were finally ready to fight. The lab was silent except for the soft hum of machines. Dr. Minji stood looking at the creature strapped to the metal table. It was smaller than the others they had seen, about the size of a dog. Its shell wasn't as hard, and its legs were shorter. "A baby," Suho said, standing next to her, "or whatever they call their young." 2 days ago, soldiers had found it trapped under a fallen building. Instead of killing it, they'd brought it to Minji. "Watch this," she said. She picked up a small device and pressed a button. The sound weapon turned on, and the creature's legs twitched. She touched the creature's head with a metal rod. A small screen next to the table showed waves and patterns. "Do you see?" she asked Suho. "When we confuse one with the sound, all of them feel it. They share one mind." She pointed to the screen. "These patterns show they're connected somehow. They think as one." Suho's eyes widened. "A hive mind. Like bees or ants, but much stronger." "Yes," Minji nodded. "And the queen is the center of this mind." The door opened, and Tahoe walked in with Jiho and Jisoo. "We found something," Jiho said. He put a map on the table. "There's a large open space under the city center. It's about 5 kilometers down." "The queen's chamber," Tahoe said. Jisoo looked at the small creature on the table. "What did you learn?" "They share one mind," Minji told her. "If we hurt one, they all know. If one learns something, they all learn it. That's why they adapt so quickly to our weapons," Tahoe said. Suddenly, alarms began to sound outside. They rushed to the window. In the distance, they could see shapes moving up the mountain. Many shapes. They found us, Suo said. Soldiers ran to their positions, the radio filled with urgent voices. As they watched, the first of the old ones reached the edge of the camp. Gunfire broke out. We need to move everyone higher up the mountain, Taiho ordered. In the noise and confusion, no one noticed that the small creature on the table had broken one of its straps. As they turned to leave the lab, it broke free completely. With surprising speed, it jumped at Hana, who had just entered the room. Hana screamed as the creature grabbed her with its sharp legs. Before anyone could shoot, it dragged her out through a window and down a steep slope. In seconds, they were gone. Hana, Joe shouted, running to the window. But they had disappeared into a crack in the ground. They took her alive, Jisu said, her voice shaking. Why? Minji's face went pale. They want to study her. To learn about us. 2 hours later, the attack had stopped. Many of the old ones had retreated, but Hana was still missing. In the command room, Taho stood with the others. We're going after her, he said. Tonight. It could be a trap, Doyun warned. I know, Taho said, but we need to try. He selected 10 soldiers for the rescue team. Each carried a sound weapon and wore a vest covered with small lights. The bright lights confused them, he explained, and we all get Minji's spray to hide our fear. Minji handed out small bottles. Spray this on your skin every hour. It blocks the chemicals they can smell. As night fell, the team gathered at the entrance to a subway tunnel. It was one of the few ways left to get underground. According to Jiho's maps, this tunnel connects to their network about 2 kilometers down. Taho said, we follow it to the big chamber, find Hana, and get out. And if we find the queen? Su asked. Taho patted a large bag on his back. Then we use this. It's a bigger version of your sound weapon. It should confuse the queen long enough for us to hurt her. They turned on their lights and entered the dark tunnel. None of them said what they were all thinking, that this might be a one-way trip into the home of humanity's worst enemy. The tunnel was cold and dark. Water dripped from the ceiling, making small puddles on the floor. Taho led the team deeper underground, their lights cutting through the darkness. No one spoke. They all knew how dangerous this mission was. After walking for an hour, they reached a place where the subway tunnel had been broken open. A large hole in the wall led to a different tunnel, one not made by humans. This new tunnel had smooth walls that seemed to shine faintly. The old ones made this, Suo whispered, touching the strange wall. Stay close, Taiho ordered. Turn your sound weapons on low power. We don't want to alert them all at once. They moved into the alien tunnel. The air felt thicker here, and it smelled strange, like wet metal and something sweet but rotten. Small lights on the walls gave off a pale blue glow. Suddenly, Jisu stopped. Listen, she said. In the distance, they heard a sound like thousands of whispers talking at once. As they moved closer, they could see the tunnel opened into a massive cave. Hiding behind rocks at the entrance, they looked out at a sight none of them would ever forget. The cave was huge, bigger than a football stadium. The ceiling was so high it disappeared in darkness. All around the cave, old ones moved in perfect order, like workers in a giant factory. Some carried strange objects. Others worked on building more tunnels. In the center of the cave was a raised platform made of the same shiny material as the walls. And on that platform, held in some kind of clear cage, was Hana. She was alive but looked tired and afraid. Strange devices were attached to her head, connecting her to larger machines nearby. They're studying her brain, Minji whispered, learning how humans think. There must be hundreds of them, one soldier said, looking at the old ones moving around the cave. We need a distraction, Taho said. He turned to Suho. Can you set up your biggest sound weapon on the other side of the cave? Suho nodded. I'll need cover. Taho sent 3 soldiers with Suho. They moved carefully around the edge of the cave, staying in shadows. The rest of the team waited, weapons ready. 10 minutes later, a small light flashed 3 times from across the cave. Suo's signal. "Now," Tahoe said into his radio. A high-pitched noise filled the cave. To the humans, it was barely noticeable, but the effect on the old ones was immediate. They froze, their legs shaking. Many fell to the ground, making strange crying sounds. "Go," Tahoe shouted. The team ran toward the platform where Hana was held. 2 soldiers fired at the clear cage, breaking it open. Minji quickly removed the devices from Hana's head. "Can you walk?" she asked. Hana nodded weakly. "Yes, but we need to hurry." Her voice was shaking. "I saw things while they had me connected. I know what they're planning." Just then, the ground began to shake. A section of the floor in the center of the cave started to open. Something huge was coming up from below. "The Queen," Hana whispered in horror. What rose from the hole was like the other old ones, but much larger, the size of a small house. Its shell was darker and covered with glowing marks. The front of its body had not just simple tools, but what looked like complex machines built into its flesh. As it emerged, the sound weapon's effect on the other old ones began to fade. They started to move again, turning toward the humans. "We need to leave. Now," Tahoe ordered. As they ran toward the exit, Jisoo stopped suddenly, staring at the Queen. "Wait," she said. "Look at its body." They all paused for a moment. Now they could see it clearly. Parts of the Queen weren't biological at all. Metal and other materials were built into its body in ways that looked too perfect, too designed. "It's partly machine," Suo said in shock. "They weren't made by nature," Jisoo realized. "Something else made them. Something older." The Queen made a sound then, not a roar or scream, but a complex pattern of clicks and tones. All around the cave, the old ones began to move toward them as one. "Run," Tahoe shouted, and they fled back into the tunnel, the sound of countless legs clicking on stone right behind them. 3 days after their escape from the cave, Tahoe stood with the others in the war room. Maps and screens covered the walls. People moved quickly, carrying messages and equipment. "The plan is working," Doyun said, pointing to a map showing Seoul. "The combined attacks have pushed the old ones back in most areas." Around the world, humans were fighting back. Using Minji's fear-blocking spray and Suho's sound weapons, soldiers were able to fight the old ones more effectively. But everyone knew this wasn't enough to win the war. "We need to attack the Queen," Tahoe said. "Hana, tell them what you learned when they had you connected to their machines." Hana stood up. Her face was still pale, but her eyes were strong and clear. "The old ones aren't natural creatures," she explained. "They were made by something else, something that lived on Earth long before humans. This older race created the old ones as tools to harvest certain chemicals from the brains of whatever creatures lived on Earth at that time. But something went wrong," Minji added. "The old ones turned on their creators. The older race left Earth, but they couldn't take all their technology with them. The queens are partly made of that ancient technology. So the old ones kept doing what they were made for," Jiho said, "harvesting brain chemicals. But now they do it for themselves." Suho spread out a drawing he had made. It showed a new, larger version of the sound weapon. "This is how we kill the Queen," he said. "A sound bomb that will disrupt not just her body, but the mechanical parts inside her." "And I finished the neurotoxin," Minji said. She held up a small bottle of dark liquid. "This is based on the ancient formula from the temple. It won't kill the old ones, but it will poison the connection between them. Without the hive mind, they're just confused animals." Tahoe looked at his team. "We go back down tonight. This time, we take the fight to them." The tunnel seemed darker and longer than before. This time, 20 soldiers went with them, each carrying weapons and light vests. Tahoe led the way, with Hana right behind him. She knew where the Queen would be. When they reached the big cave, it was empty. The old ones had moved the Queen deeper, knowing humans would come back. This way, Hannah said, pointing to a new tunnel. They walked for another hour before reaching a second cave, even bigger than the first. In the center sat the queen, surrounded by hundreds of old ones. "We need to get closer," Suo whispered, holding the sound bomb. Minji handed small masks to everyone. "These will protect us from the neurotoxin." Taho looked at his team. "Remember the plan. Sound bomb first, then the toxin." Before they could move, a strange voice filled their heads. Not a sound, but words directly in their minds. "You aavcom to die," the voice said. It was the queen, speaking through some kind of mental power. The queen rose up, even bigger than before. Now they could clearly see the machine parts built into her body, metal and glowing crystals, and things they couldn't even name. "Your kind is made to be food," the queen's voice continued in their heads. We are engineered for us. Your fear is our life." "We were made by you?" Jisu asked in shock. "Not by us. By those who made us. You were meant to stay simple, afraid. But you evolve to go fast. Now you threaten us." The old ones moved closer, surrounding them. Taho looked at Suo and nodded. It was time. Suo threw the sound bomb as hard as he could. It landed right next to the queen and began to make a noise so loud that everyone covered their ears, even though the sound wasn't physical. The queen screamed in their minds, a terrible pain that made some soldiers fall to their knees. Taho ran forward, a special gun in his hands. He fired the neurotoxin directly at the queen's head. The dark liquid splashed across her shell and seeped into the cracks. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the queen made a sound like breaking glass. All around the cave, the old ones began to shake and fall. The hive mind was breaking. But the queen wasn't finished. She lunged at Tayo, her sharp legs aiming for his heart. "No," Hannah shouted. She jumped in front of Tayo, holding up a piece of the ancient technology they had found in the temple. When the queen touched it, there was a flash of blue light. The queen froze, her body shaking, then collapsed to the ground. The cave fell silent. All around them, the old ones lay still or moved weakly, like confused animals. They had won.